Thank you for patiently waiting for us to come back to our the business of tonight's meeting. We will now move to the introduction portion of the agenda. And just for clarification, again, because we didn't have any action items, any bars or anything come forward last meeting, all of our items tonight are introduction, and they will be voted on at the following meeting. So there will not be votes taking place tonight. But this is where we do a lot of our work and our conversations and questions. So we will now move to the introduction portion of the agenda. Again, I want to note that introduction item number 9, the Seattle Teacher Residency Program contract, will be moved to the final introduction of the evening, as the presenting staff will be on the way back from another district meeting. And if I could ask folks to please go out into the lobby, I want to make sure we have our ability to get through this meeting quickly and efficiently. So I'm going to start with introduction item number 1, which is 2020 board goals and objectives, adoption of 2020 board goals and objectives. And this came through executive committee on February 12th for approval. No, you're good, don't worry about it. So I'm going to ask, given that this one is a board goal, and I want to be really clear about what board goals are. So this board goals are not for staff, they're not for the superintendent, they're not for teachers, they're not for students. Board goals are specific to the 7 people up here. Well, 7 when Director Mack is here, but us directors up here, the goals that we want to do to improve our work and our ability to serve this district. So if Director Hampson wants to share a little bit of background about how we got here to finally introducing our 2020 board goals and objectives, I'll open up the floor. And I'm happy to do it too if you'd like.
No, that's fine. This is really came out of the board and then was put together in categorically to try to give it some organization, specifically prioritized around the strategic plan, and put back to the rest of the board for additional feedback. There's definitely a focus on trying to do in terms of how we operate so that we are better equipped to do the work of accountability around the strategic plan.
And I would just add too, yeah, so additionally to this, board goals come out of board policy number 1810, which is our annual goals and objectives, and policy number 1820, which is evaluation of the board. And as you can see in this document, we will be doing our evaluation in November of 2020. The other thing that's really exciting that we're hope that becomes a common practice, particularly in the executive committee, and we're encouraging folks, other committees as well, is we use the racial equity analysis tool as a committee and worked with the staff to participate in that exercise so we could get a really good understanding of and center the work of the board goals on our racial equity analysis.
Can I add to that a little bit? So that one of the big pieces about that is the board trying to model, or not trying to, but modeling the work that we expect staff to do from central office all the way down, for the community to be able to see and comment on our modeling of that work. And so we tried to establish reasonable goals for the time period that we have left, but also to make sure that we're reflecting back out to community the work that is expected.
And these are separated into 4 different categories: alignment with the strategic plan, community engagement, continuous improvement, which is specifically around operational, and board staff relations. This does include collective goals for the board as a whole, as well as individual goals for each director. We imagine that given that some of these are really important goals, that they may actually be multi-year. So I want to open it up to questions or comments now about introduction item number 1. And happy to have a conversation. Okay. Go ahead, Director Vera-Smith.
I don't have them in front of me right now. I was trying to pull them up. But I was in this committee meeting or this was all discussed. And I remember there was one on there about social events for the board. I'm trying to get clarity. Was it for the board to have together? Because obviously we can't have more than 4 at a time. We were a quorum. Or is it for us to have events with the staff? What was?
It was to try to do something social together and break down kind of some of the historical, maybe iciness, and have some fun together, because we do have to work very hard together around some very difficult topics and tense situations. So the suggestions were put forth and it would be something that people could attend.
So they'd be open to the public then?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
it has to be
Have
announced
to be
and,
noticed.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I'm just trying to clarify that we understand that's kind of what
Public
you gotta
fun,
do.
watching
Public fun,
board
watching
and
us
senior
have
staff
fun.
members
Yeah.
humiliate themselves, either playing softball, basketball, or doing
Or
a talent show.
show.
Yeah.
And I saw that there would be, you'd appoint a person to organize that, and I would apply for that job.
Talent show.
If you want, I used to be an event organizer.
This is helpful.
And I would love to do that, yeah, so.
Okay, well, let's.
have to step out of the room to
Yeah, you didn't even have to. You didn't even have to wait till we approve these goals. That's great. And I just want to, Director Hersey, I saw you over here too.
I also know you were an ump, so not that sways the.
Oh, and just to clarify that in the coming months, some of the things that you'll see that illustrate that we are achieving these goals. Again, all directors will be attending the COSBACH conference in April of 2020. We've also given ourselves the goal of reading both Dare We Say Love and, again, This Book You Failed As Students of Color Talk Seattle Schools, as well as our trainings at our board retreats will be focused on first since time immemorial. In June, it will be ethnic studies, and in September, it will be anti-racism and policymaking as examples. Seeing as there's no further questions or comments, want to move to item number 2, or do you have more?
Oh, no, I mentioned something about this to Jolyn Berge relative to when staff provide training to us internally, that there's no compensation. But I'm wondering if maybe an honorarium, we do that internally with staff. Is there any way to, she's shaking her head, but when we are using internal staff to do trainings for the board, it feels like there ought to be some fiscal acknowledgement of that, even if it's just an honorarium, but. I'll just put that out there, and then maybe I'll bring it up later.
Yes. Maybe in the time between now and our next meeting, we'll have more clarity. If there are any more, Director Rankin.
I have a question about the individual director goals, that it says, but that's not what I was going to ask. By June 2020, we'll develop them. They'll be shared at progress of the board retreat and then the annual evaluation. I guess I'm curious on the development of those goals, if that is something that there will be more of a timeline or any structure around, or if that's what it is.
Go ahead, Director Hampson. What? Yeah, it's individual director goals. By June 2020, directors shall develop individual qualitative and quantitative goals.
Right.
And we'll talk about those at September and November.
Yes, so I'm asking if there will be, if this is the guideline, or if there are any more, if there's any more structure around our goals being connected at all, or
Determined by director and then reported out. The goals are specific to the pro-Black agenda.
I think to clarify, Director Rankin, this is to say individual directors shall also come up with their own individual qualitative and quantitative goals to grow both our understanding and our ability to make policy with under the thinking around a pro-Black agenda, which is part of that goal, is to say that you have to identify your own individual goals qualitatively and quantitatively
specific to this goal.
Specific to
thank
that
you.
goal
That's
number one.
I was reading it as just to come up with
I
a
appreciate
personal
that
goal.
clarity.
And
Thank you.
I was sort of That seemed really nebulous.
Yes, that
I see
was
that it's
larger than,
connected
yes.
specifically to this. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarity. Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, let's move to introduction item number 2, which is waiver of 1 school day at Leshai Elementary School due to an emergency closure for an unforeseen natural event. This came through CNI February 11th for approval. I'm going to recognize Ronald Boy, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, Ronald Boy as Senior Legal Counsel. This is a waiver for a day of school that Leshai missed because there was an epidemic at the school of neurovirus. This is something that we've dealt with before. We know the neurovirus spreads really easily, it spreads quickly, and in our history we found that the best way to just cut off the spread of the virus is to shut down school, let the staff and kids have a break from each other, and do a thorough cleaning. So on the week of December 9th, Leshai recognized a sharp increase in the number of kids absent for school for symptoms of neurovirus. By Wednesday, there were about 70 kids that went out or were out because of the illness. By Thursday, we had about 100 kids total, not including a large number of staff. And this is a school of about 370 kids. So it's a significant number of absence, much more than what is typical. We made the call on Thursday afternoon to close school for the day, so it would give Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for us to have all persons to have a break, to not spread the virus, and also to do a thorough cleaning of the school, which we did. So as part of the requirements of the law, we are able to ask for a waiver for this sort of thing. It's considered under the law as an unforeseen natural event, specifically an epidemic. This is qualifies by definition as an epidemic. And part of the law indicates that the board must approve the waiver, and then the superintendent will submit a letter requesting it to OSPI, which is attached to the bar, for approval.
So this is
Director
strictly
Harris.
compliance, correct?
This is strictly compliance and to ensure that we do not receive a deduction in our state funding.
Dare I ask what happens if we do get hit with coronavirus?
We expected you might ask that. You know, I would say that on
Want to be
this
consistent.
on this subject matter, if we were looking at a coronavirus outbreak, an epidemic, under the law, we are able to ask for waivers for school for up to 2 days. So here we're asking for 1 day. In theory, we could have asked for 2 days for an epidemic. However, the law also indicates that if a state of emergency is declared, which speculating could be possible with the current concern in community health, then we could have additional days beyond a 2-day for the length of the state of emergency. So it's definitely going to be a very, fact-based, resolution for what we would decide to do, but waivers would be appropriate and available in a number of ways if that did happen.
Thank you. And I know we did get a couple emails, at least I just saw one come in from the Office of Public Affairs, I think, to get information out early. So if folks are interested, there should be an email. And I did see it on the website today at the top of the kind of the news section. So
Yes, and we've formed a committee that's going to be meeting and keeping up to date on the current status of that issue, and we'll be trying to stay ahead of it.
thank you, Ronald. Are there any
It
questions?
went out to
Yes.
families as well.
Oh, thank you. Any more questions or comments or concerns about item number 2? Thank
Okay,
you, Ronald.
Thank you.
All right, introduction item number 3 tonight, we're not going to vote, is for contract for middle school and high school yearbooks with Herf Jones. This came through CNI February 11th for approval. I will recognize Chief DeBacker. Take it away.
Thank you very much. Diane DeBacker, Chief Academic Officer. This is the yearbook contract. We are bringing to you our current contract with Herf Jones. Runs out at the end of this month. This was scheduled to come to you in January to be voted on in February, but because of the snow day and the delay, we're now here. We sent out an RFP for parties who might be interested in doing our middle school and high school yearbooks. We did that in October, and in November, the RFPs were reviewed with our yearbook advisors. 3 companies submitted bids, and the committee chose Herb Jones. This would be for up to $400,000 per year, with a possible renewal for the next 3 years. So consider it a 4-year contract, but every year we will evaluate how that is going and if we want to continue on. So we will be coming back to you for the next 3 years with this same motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from directors? Director Vera-Smith and then Director Hampson?
Hi. So just to clarify, what is this 400,000 paying for? Because I think families believe that when they buy a yearbook, that pays for the cost of the yearbook. So there's questions about why we have to pay 400,000 a year for a contract with the company.
It's up to that. So depending on how many schools decide to do yearbooks and how many yearbooks are ordered, then once our amount that gets to $400,000, that's the max that we will do in our district. So every school sets their own yearbook price.
And when the price of that yearbook doesn't cover the price of having the service of the yearbook? Because, again, I think the confusion is we're paying 400,000 a year. I know it's up to that, so not necessarily that, but what is that paying for if not the yearbook? Because the yearbook is being produced and the parents are paying for the yearbook. So what is this money going towards?
This is paying for the yearbook. It is saying that we have allocated $400,000 in our budget in order to help pay for the cost of those yearbooks.
Okay. So what parents pay for the yearbooks are just kind of,
It costs more than $400,000.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, that's what I'm trying to hear.
The district goes
Yeah.
up to $400,000.
Yeah.
Joe Lynn
Chief.
has a correction.
Just a clarification. So what happens is, we know that we're going to have about $400,000 in charge for the cost of developing all the yearbooks across our high schools. All the schools set their rates. They collect all that money. It comes into the district office. We pay the bill. We pay the $400,000.
Gotcha. Okay, so this money is coming from the parents. Okay.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Hampson?
Thanks, Joe Lynn.
Oh, I was just going to say, some of it, there is an equity analysis in here that talks about keeping the cost down, and I would hope that some of this money actually does go to making sure that students who can't afford to get a yearbook get a yearbook.
And there are different avenues that schools can use in order to keep that cost down and also in order to help students who can't afford to buy the yearbook.
Thank you. Director Harris?
Brings up my question. Is there a baseline that we give guidance to our high school, and I think some middle schools have yearbooks as well now?
Yes.
Do we have baseline guidance to give to principals to talk about that equity issue? There's something really cruel and ugly about students with $60 yearbooks running around getting signatures and, oh, look, I'm on page 19, and other folks that don't have a home to sleep in at night and a place to get their clothes cleaned. Do we give our principals baseline guidance about how to address these issues of quite extraordinary inequity?
One of the reasons that the committee chose the Herb Jones contract is that they have three people who will work with our schools individually to make sure that those issues, some of those issues are addressed, so that they don't get out of hand. Some of them don't get too bulky or too fancy.
Let me ask you this. If you were going to do a survey of our high school and middle school principals, do you think you'd be satisfied? That we're
of what?
giving a survey of how do we address those inequities that those inequities are in fact being addressed in some kind of
Is this related to the
system-
yearbook?
It absolutely is. Until you've been in a high school, watching the haves and the have-nots side by side, and when you have one high school that has a $70 yearbook, and you have another high school that gets it and maybe decided not to be quite so darn fancy, because we don't give a baseline of advice to our principals. I'm asking you, Dr. DeBacker, whether or not you believe, if you did a survey of the inequities on yearbooks, just as an example, we've got lots of them, as you know, whether you think you'd be happy with it.
I feel uncomfortable asking somebody to surmise, guessing based on other people's opinions.
It's a rhetorical question,
understood.
but my point being is we need to start putting some baselines in effect so that our principals, our school leaders have guidance, so that our schools that sit side by side each other aren't so very, very different. That's
That
my
makes
point.
sense.
Thank
It's
you.
certainly a conversation that we can have with our yearbook advisors.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns from directors? Okay, let's go to item number 4, which is approval of Instructional Materials Committee membership 2020 through 2024. This came through CNI February 11th for approval. I want to recognize again Chief DeBacker, stayed at the podium, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you very much. You may recall that in the revision to policy 2015, we addressed the IMC, and that was really based upon some concerns that had taken place over the past year with previous adoptions. So we are bringing forth to you recommendations for members of the IMC. Just a reminder that the people who are on the IMC merely oversee the process of adoptions. They do not approve the adoptions. They make sure that we are following the guidelines and the procedures that are outlined in policy 2015, ensuring that the process is done appropriately. The membership is fairly prescribed in 2015 and also in superintendent procedures of 2015. You will see in the board action report on page 5, although I see that page 5 isn't actually numbered, our proposed instructional committee members. That is our manager of library services and instructional materials, our executive director of career and college education, Caleb Perkins, and then our instructional materials specialist. Those 3 positions are designated within 2015. So those are staff members that are here. And then you'll see that 2 principals, they applied and were chosen to represent the elementary program and the secondary program, and then 2 parents. We also, in 2015, it requires us to designate alternates in case any of these can no longer serve, and so the alternates are listed there as well.
Thank you, Chief DeBacker. Comments or questions from directors? Director Rankin?
To clarify the comment that came up earlier today, and that you just said again, which is that the IMC doesn't suggest curriculum, but I have a question about wording on page 5 of the second part. So we have the adoption committee. When the work of the adoption committee is complete, they provide their recommendation to the IMC. The IMC then determines a recommendation for adoption. The superintendent will provide the recommendation of the IMC to the school board. What the IMC determining the recommendation is what? Why determine? I guess what is that word? Why is it provide, determine, provide instead of provide?
I'm not sure why those specific words were used, but I know how the process works. The adoption committee does the work of deciding which options to bring forth to the school board. That goes to the IMC, and the IMC then officially presents it to the superintendent, and then it's officially presented to you as a board.
Thanks, Director Rankin. Director Vera-Smith?
Well, then it's not following the policy, because the policy says they should determine it. I mean, I'm not arguing with the way it's done, and you know how it's done, but then the way it's done isn't consistent with the policy, because this says that they will determine it. I don't know how we iron that out, because,
Can you be more specific?
well, I'm just saying, that if this is the way, if they're not determining it, they're supposed to, I guess. That's what the policy says.
They're determining it by what's provided by the adoption committee. So I think it's
Should we ask
just
Greg? Greg, help us out.
Make him earn his keep.
Yeah. So first of all, sorry, good evening, Greg Narver, Chief Legal Counsel.
Thank you.
As you are aware, we've had some litigation recently involving the prior iteration of the policy. This is the new version that we believe is squarely consistent with state law. State law does have requirements for the appointment of the IMC, and we believe we're following them. I agree, it's a little bit confusing, maybe the use of that word, but I think that the process that Chief DeBacker laid out is consistent both with state law and follows our policy, because if you read the policy in whole, it talks about the specific job of the adoption committee and the specific oversight role of the IMC. I think it's more a facilitation of the recommendation of the adoption committee. We can look at tweaking this word if that's causing confusion. From a legal perspective, I think we have something that's squarely consistent with state law.
I think also the determine is to ascertain or establish exactly, typically as a result of research or calculation. The adoptions committee does the research or calculation. The IMC determines, yep, this is the
Takes it
recommendation
and
based
runs
on
with
that
it.
research and calculation, and then
I think maybe there's a clearer word we can come up with for the policy, but I think we're following what state law has in mind.
Thank
You
you.
know, yeah,
Thank you.
so like she's saying there, I guess the danger, if there is any, could be that the IMC could decide they are going to choose something other than that because they have the power to determine it. I mean, I'm just saying that if you want to think worst case scenario, what could go wrong because of this word being as vague as it is. I don't know. I mean, obviously, if this board's comfortable with it, but I just see that as a possibility where there could be misinterpretation.
It's a word that could cause some ambiguity. It's a 7-page long policy that I think pretty clearly lays out what each committee does, and with reference to a statute that is very specific about approval by the board of the membership of the IMC, and I think we're doing that.
Thank you, Greg. Sounds like we've got a resolution. Not a resolution, sorry. We're not going to be, no resolutions. Are there any more questions? Director Hampson?
No, I actually, first wanted to say thank you for the much more thorough equity analysis. I find it helpful, informative, and supportive of the work. So I appreciate that. And then just in terms of going back to Director Harris's questions about yearbook costs and availability, I think that there may be something that we want to look at in it might be in the student fees area of policy. I think it's kind of a larger issue. There are some interesting language in student fees where it talks about the superintendent or the principal being allowed to waive certain fees if the charge is coming from top down. This might be a larger issue. It plays into field trips. It plays into quite a few other things where when the ASBs are involved, and there are systems in place with the Alliance for Education and that system that allows you to provide scholarships, but I don't know how uniformly that's being used. And so I don't know if this is a student, what are the 3500s? What area am I in?
Student.
CNI?
Student.
No, I know, but I'm wondering where is Series 3000, is that through
Students.
curriculum and instructions
Yeah, somewhere.
versus audit and finance?
Yes.
A little of both, I think.
Okay, but that might be something that we could work on together to make sure that there's some further equity and how those costs end up creating further inequity in the buildings.
I want Thank you. We are on Instructional Materials Committee, so is it about Instructional Committee? Are there any more questions or comments, concerns about Instructional Materials Committee, IMC? Okay, let's go to introduction item number 5, revisions to school board policy number 2415, high school graduation requirements, and school board policy number 2420, high school grade and credit marking policy. And in response to House Bill 1599, HB 1599, multiple pathways to graduation. This came to CNI on February 11th for approval, and I will kick it over to Chief DeBacker again.
It is me again. This is in response to House Bill 1599 that was passed last session. And because of the changes within that, there are 4 things that we need to address within 2 different policies, as was discussed just a few minutes ago. The first has to do with the 2 credit waiver. So this year's junior class, they will be the first class that is required to have 24 credits. And it is possible that we may have students who cannot meet that 24 credit requirement for a variety of reasons. In many of our high schools, we only have a 6-period day. And 6 times 4 years of high school is 24. So there's no wiggle room for if you fail a class, or very little wiggle room. So House Bill 1599 allows a district to approve a 2 credit waiver. Those 2 credits cannot be core courses or core, they have to be in the elective areas. And that credit waiver could then allow them to meet the graduation requirements. So that would be a change to policy 2415. We talked about this in the Curriculum Instruction Committee as to whether or not we would want to, if the board decided to say yes to this, if we would want to revisit that in a year or 2 to see how that was going. Because things could certainly change. We could change our high school schedules. We could see that students are doing fine and meeting graduation requirements. So it was the recommendation of CNI that we bring this back in front of the board. I'm not sure the timetable on doing that, but there was a strong desire to do so.
Thank you, Chief DeBacker. Director Rankin?
Yeah, I was just going to provide the suggestion or change to have it come back in a couple of years would be, our discussion was on looking at data of who's using the waiver and who isn't, and make sure that it's working as intended, that we are not keeping students from graduating that need to graduate, but that also it's not being overused as to just offer less credits, basically.
Sure. I appreciate that context. Director Harrison, then Director Hampson.
Question and a concern. Do we have data right now that tells us how many of our juniors, sophomores, are not on track to graduate with 24 credits? And has that data been pushed to the board at this point?
We do have some data on that, and I can tell you about the class of 2021 right now. So those juniors who are right now, as of November, 79% of the students in the class of 2021 were on track with credit earning. So that means they had the amount of credits, they had 12 credits as they were entering into that junior year. Only 71% of students furthest from educational justice were on track, and 63% of our African American males were on track. So that's what we know about our junior class. I don't have data in front of me for our freshman and sophomore class.
And that begets another question, my apologies. Do we have credit retrieval work plans ongoing to address that?
Yeah, a few years ago, school, when we were studying the high school schedule, the 24 credit requirement, we pushed money out to high schools to address what we anticipated would be coming, that students would be falling behind. And so schools didn't, each school did it according to what they thought met the needs of their their area. So Nathan Hale High School, for example, they changed their schedule around. Other high schools put in credit retrieval type courses or type of programs. So that's been happening for the past 2 years. So there's a variety of stuff going on. As we look at our strategic plan and goals 4 and 5, which is ninth grade on track and college, career, and community ready. So those two, we have a bunch of information about what was done, is it helping, and how individual schools are doing.
So is research and evaluation doing that work? Is this, I'm trying to figure out where it is on the continuum and when we will see that to know what's working and what is not working as well.
You'll see it as we bring forth more information around the ninth grade on track and so goals 4 and 5 as we refer to them. You'll see it there. We can get that information to you as well.
That would be helpful. The
I was just
comment,
gonna say, maybe partially because I think the superintendent does do the strategic plan kind of updates too, so could be part of that as well.
terrific. The other was a comment and something that Superintendent Janot and I spoke about, I guess it's earlier this week. How did that happen? Yeah, it runs together. One of my big concerns, of course, is the disparity between so many of our schools and not having a baseline. Last graduation season, there were a number of students that were not allowed to walk for, frankly, what I believe to be arbitrary and capricious reasons, and caused enormous pain, embarrassment, shame, and extraordinary disruption in those schools. And it's my understanding that that is, again, entirely up to the principals. And I wonder if we can figure out a way to give guidance to our principals so that what ought to be one of the most proud days of a student's life isn't one tainted with shame and ugliness and divisiveness that is very difficult to undo.
Thank you, Director Harris. And I wanted to add too, I know Gail Morris does credit retrieval in the summer, just as one small anecdotal example for our native students. So I know that there are folks out there who are doing credit retrieval. Superintendent Janelle.
Just maybe at the next meeting, we can bring data around the next year's class, just like you pointed out, and then some of the supports that we're putting in place or planning to put in place, because there are some good things going on, so we can update you on that.
And I will
Thank you.
refer you to page 5 of the bar under the equity analysis. It goes into some of those details as to what was done.
Very thorough, thank you.
So there's 3 other items that are contained in this bar. So the second change, I know we're not quite done, sorry.
No, it's good.
The second change would be giving high school credit for courses, high school courses taken in the middle school. So this is actually a pretty easy one, and it's definitely an equity one. So right now, students can take high school courses in middle school, but they have to request that it be put on their transcript in high school. With House Bill 1599, it says if you take a high school course in middle school, it's automatically put on your transcript. You don't have to request it. You can request that it's not put on it, but it really is an equity issue. For those who know the ropes and know the system and they know to ask to have it put on their transcript, they've got it. But those who didn't know it, maybe new to our district, new to the state of Washington, whatever the case may be, probably we're going without credits here for a while. So this is really an easy one within the change of House Bill 1599.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments on that one? Pretty straightforward? Okay, you said there was a third.
The third, well,
All
yeah,
right.
there's a third. The third one is that it expands options for recovery credits in meeting state graduation requirements. And this one is, again, a pretty easy one to understand. House Bill 1599 delinked state assessments from graduation. So you used to have to pass your state assessments in math and reading and science in order to graduate. That is gone. It is still a pathway, however. And so if a student does take those assessments and they do get the score that's required, the score above, then that is one of the pathways to graduation. They're good to go. But it's not the only pathway. So we have to change 2420 to reflect that.
Okay, Director Hampson, then Director Rankin.
I just had one question back to the first of the three items relative, it's kind of already been asked, but as we're tracking the usage or the approval of the 2-credit waiver, how do we ensure that there isn't disparity in how that's applied? Meaning specifically racial disparity? And then if you could, whether it's now or at the end of the questions, the very last part of the bar, the summary of support for 9th and 10th graders, I just need a quick tutorial on that. I don't quite understand what I'm supposed to be getting out of this. Yeah, the chart. It's at the very end.
So you had two questions there around, did you
Well,
have an answer?
so to answer one of those, that's what I asked for the 2-year review for, is to look at the data of who is able to use the 2-credit waiver and who isn't, and make sure that it's giving access to, as intended, to prevent kids from not graduating, as opposed to being a kind of easy, or not easy, but
Given how full our plates get and the passage of time, does it make sense to amend this to require that 2-year analysis?
it's already in there. I
It
asked
is
for it
in
at the
there.
meeting, yep.
Okay,
August 2022.
thank you.
Good
Very
work.
much.
Good work.
And this will be something new for our high school principals and our counselors and others. And so we will have to do some professional development with principals. And what can you give a waiver for, first of all? Are you given equally everything that you mentioned?
And do
This
kids
will be new.
that need it know that it's
Yep.
available. And
The last change, the fourth change that comes about because of House Bill
oh
1599.
wait, sorry, you were saying your chart that we were waiting till the end. Well, I wanted to just make a comment, not necessarily to Dr. DeBacker, but just to the ether, that of all the pathways to graduation, none of them are just passing all your classes. Just saying, state and whoever else.
Thank you, Director Rankin.
The fourth change.
Oh, there's four.
Yeah,
Did
there's
you,
four.
Did you want to? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
The
I thought there
fourth
was two.
change is another one that's fairly easy. It has to do with grade replacement. And so this would change, we'd have to make a change in 2420 around that students can't take out-of-district courses to replace a low grade earned in their home school. And again, this is an equity issue because not every student has the ability to take a course from somewhere else and bring it in and put it on their transcript. So we're saying that, or House Bill 1599 is requiring us to say that we, out-of-district credit, you have to take it in district, so, if you're going to replace it on your current transcript.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? Director Rivera-Smith.
Just to clarify, what does that mean then for online credit retrieval?
It really depends on how you got the original credit, okay? So if you have a credit on your transcript that you want to replace with, that you earned in your current school, that has to be taken in district. So I'm not sure I'm answering your
I
question
think so.
correctly.
Well, so then if they take it in school, they can't take an online course to replace it. Is that what you're saying then?
Correct, right. Or out-of-district courses.
And online counts as out of district.
Depends.
Okay. Yeah.
It does. It depends on, OSPI has a list of approved providers that can do out-of-district, or that's approved for credit.
Okay.
So, and our guidance counselors know this, our principals know this, so if a student wants to take something, they need to make sure that it's approved by OSPI first, the provider of. We've had some, this is part of the change that came about last year when we changed 2420 as well. This sometimes causes a little heartburn because people get excited, they enroll in a class, they take it, and then they get done with it and realize, I can't put this on my transcript.
Okay,
So-
so if they're trying to make up a credit they earned in district, they can do an OSPI approved online course to make up for that. Correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
We'll find
I
out
hope
for
so.
sure.
Let's find
By
out.
the time we vote in 2 weeks.
By the time we vote, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think to add to Director Hampson's question on the last page with the dollars that are going out to high schools, it is only our comprehensive high schools, and just curious about, I mean, particularly Nova High School is not implicated, at least on this chart. So are folks like students at Nova or the center school, middle college, are they also getting?
What chart are you referring
The
to?
very last chart on page.
Oh, I see it. I'm sorry. I didn't go all the way to the back.
And I realize I did not send this
Yeah.
question to you in advance, so if you need time.
Yeah, let
to
me
get to that?
review that, yeah.
Understood. Just want to be thoughtful that I didn't see particularly Nova, given they were here today, and obviously middle college, and our students from center school. And, oh, I'm sorry, center school is here. That's my bad. But not having seen Nova or middle college.
I will look at that.
Yes, and South Lake and Interagency.
So it's a pretty beefy bar. Lots of changes, but all for the good.
But can you explain what I'm supposed to be getting from this chart, please?
Yeah, so when we pushed out money to schools in the 18-19 school year, as an agency, we didn't give a lot of guidelines around what this should be used for. We literally said, in the context of your own school, what do you think would help students the most? We did that year one. We pushed out a smaller amount this past year, and we put a lot of guardrails around that. We learned our lesson. We learned our lesson. So what happened, like, for example, at Ballard High School, since that's the first one that's listed there at the top, is anything that's checked, that is where they use some of their money in order to help students attain or get to the 24 credits as this was implemented. So Ballard chose to do online credit retrieval. So it goes back to Director Harris's question. Have an academic prevention intervention specialist. Beef up the counseling staff. Have a high school graduation success coordinators. So you can see the different things that were done at the different schools. Does that help?
And if I could also add something here too, because what's coming up for me, particularly as Director Hampson is asking this question, is, looking at a school like Ballard High School as compared to Seattle World School, which gets 44,000, or Rainier Beach, which is only getting 268, it feels a little uncomfortable because not only do we talk about it, but then even on this chart, it feels like we continue to put more resources into some schools as opposed to others. And
We're going to look into the chart. Sherry's just pointed out she doesn't believe that these allocations are correct, and we'll get that back to you. So.
Thank you. Director Hampson, do you have any more questions around that, or does that help for getting more?
No, it sounds like we need, probably, I'm confused by it because it's not making,
It's not telling us what we.
some of it makes sense. In this context, I'm trying to figure out where the value is. And it is important to know, given there's good data in here about where we're falling behind in terms of meeting students' needs And so if we're investing in schools where those needs are not being met, it would look a little different than this, I think. So I know this is past money. Some of
Right.
it was not spent, and then, so I don't know what the net will be for this year, but hopefully we can get a clearer picture by next time.
Past money and prior to this strat plan. That's a lot different.
Thank you, Chief DeBacker.
Thank you.
Your tenure.
Okay, introduction item number 6, approval of contract with Unify Consulting for staff augmentation and work process improvement for business systems and central office departments. This came through A&F February 10th for consideration, and I'll hand it over to Chief Berge.
Good evening. This bar would result in the approval of a contract with Unified Consulting to provide contract staff for our SAP system. That system is what we use for accounting, payroll, and HR. So in addition, the contractor will also work on updating our work processes to make improvements in how we document and coordinate workflow between our DOTS department and our business owners of those systems. So while we continue to post open positions, this provides a way to complete required work until we can find staff who we can hire.
Do directors have comments, questions, or concerns? Anything to elevate? Okay, let's move to item number 7, approval of the purchase of replacement fleet vehicles. This came through A&F February 10th for approval. Chief Berge, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. This bar would result in upgrading 24 of the district's fleet vehicles for a cost not to exceed the $985,000 stated. The list of vehicles to be replaced has been attached at the back of the bar. Vehicles prioritized for replacement have been ranked by the auto mechanic shop as either not operable or not cost-effective to repair, having a history of breakdowns. There are notes at the bottom of the table that outline that. Upgrading would improve reliability and fuel efficiency for vehicles replaced and reduce maintenance costs. There was a question from Director Harris at Audit and Finance regarding related board policies, which is Policy 6810, Natural Resources Conservation. The related superintendent procedure for that policy states, when purchasing vehicles, the district shall give preferential consideration to vehicles with the most fuel efficacy, considering a life cycle cost analysis of every purchase, end quote. That preference consideration was given when choosing the list of replacement vehicles, in that we are either selecting hybrids or are greatly increasing the fuel efficiency of our vehicles. That would conclude my comments.
Can I just ask a little bit more finer point on that one? So I think there's 25 vehicles here?
24.
24. And I see a Prius and I see 2 hybrid Escapes. And so, I mean, given 6810, given our procedure, bless you, I mean, and again, what I think cannot be overstated enough is the critical climate emergency we are in. So I only see 3 vehicles that I think are meaningful or at least adhering to that policy. So how do we justify the other ones? Are there no vehicles available? What are some of the reasons why we're not doing 100% of these as green, I guess?
State contract only has limited selections for hybrids. The work vans and other bigger construction trucks just don't come in hybrids yet.
Thank you.
Working towards it.
I know, and I appreciate it. Director Hampson?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, and sometimes I think this was one of the other things that was stated, is that the fuel efficiency is actually greater in a regular vehicle than in a hybrid, for example, just because of the structure of that vehicle and how well it is structured. I mean, I can't talk anymore. Yes, how well it's manufactured, how efficient it is, how heavy it is, how efficient it is, and so I think the idea was they went with the best fuel efficiency.
As stated at the bottom of the first page.
In every case, yeah.
I see that.
We did our very best.
No, and I appreciate that. We're only on the dais when we are, and I just want to make sure that we at least are, we probably only have them out till 2028, so we should be doing more. That's what the scientists say, just being real. Okay. Are there any more comments or questions about item number 7, approval of fleet vehicles? The kids are telling me this, so I'm not saying anything kids have not heard. Let's move on to introduction item number 8, which is Refinance 2010 Limited General Obligation Refunding Bonds. This came through A&F February 10th for approval. Chief Berge, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. This bar would authorize a refunding of the current bonds, which is a very common practice for school districts. Those bonds are on the John Stanford Center. Based on market conditions, we believe the refinancing, which is similar to refinancing a person's home mortgage, would save the district approximately $150,000 per year in interest payments. Over the remaining 7.5 years of the loan, this would result in an estimated $1.2 million in savings for the Capital Projects Fund. We have added an attachment at the back of the bar showing potential savings by school year, which outlines the minimum savings threshold at the sale of the bond, meaning that if we're going to save less than 4%, we will not proceed. However, we likely are estimating that we'll be saving a rate of 5.34%.
Okay.
That would conclude my comment.
Thank you. Questions and comments from directors? Director Hampson?
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I was expecting there to be just a whole plethora of questions about this. While you come up with those, I was going to note that we did talk about the equity analysis, and that I learned that there were 2 firms, I think, that are approximately that do this work. Not a huge, highly competitive field, public finance, particularly with school districts. And but I did ask our, is it Jacobson Jarvis? Is that who it is?
D.A. Davidson.
I'm sorry, D.A. Davidson, to shoot me an email with their own equity statement from their company, which I haven't received yet. So maybe you could.
I've received it. I
You
can
did.
forward it to you, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I probably need to have a conversation with Director Hampson first, and then we can see where it goes from there.
Thank you. Any other directors' comments or questions or concerns about item number 8, Refinance Limited General Obligation Refunding Bonds?
Saving money, don't get to do that very often.
Thank you, Chief Berge. All right, introduction item number 10. As mentioned, we're going to put the Seattle teacher residency to the very end. Item number 10, approval of the 2020-2021 Transportation Service Standards Ridership Eligibility. This came through OPS on February 6th for consideration. And Chief Podesta, I'll let you take it away.
Hello, Fred Podesta, Chief Operations Officer. The approval of transportation service standards, which really describe eligibility for district-provided transportation, is an annual process specified in our transportation policy. Attached to the board action report are 2 versions, the standards that you're adopting, and then a red line copy. I think it was available to directors. That is the year-over-year changes. There have been no real structural changes to the way the standards work. We're following the same guidelines. There have been some formatting changes, and there are 3 kind of highlights. We have temporary transportation because of the West Woodland Capital Project, so students will be at John Muir, and there will be transportation to allow the West Woodland students to the temporary site. There have been some boundary changes that have some students attending Rising Star, and those changes, those transportation changes are made as well. And then the relocation of the Licton Springs School to the Webster Building, we're providing transportation for all those students to the new location, and we'll monitor that over time. There's been some cleanup of shuttles and other things that just were omitted from last year's document, but the service was provided, and so we've cleaned that up a little bit, including some last-minute things you may remember from near the start of school, adding a shuttle for Lincoln, extending the shuttle for Garfield, but there are not really many major changes to this document from last year.
For folks paying attention, page 1, just a small correction. It says West Woodland Elementary will be provided yellow bus service to the school's interim site location, and it should be John Muir, not Marshall.
No, I'm sorry, I said Muir, it's Marshall.
Okay,
It is
that's
John
what I
Marshall.
that's what I want to make sure.
I'm sorry, no, that's.
Okay, you said Muir, and I was like, well,
I did say
didn't think
Muir. No,
okay,
it's John
just
Marshall.
trying to be clear there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for catching
And
that.
I know, obviously, Director Mack's not here, but do Director Hersey or Rankin have any?
Why for consideration, folks?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what's the?
Do you recall why it was for consideration, Chief Podesta?
I don't.
Director,
I think that it came down to there was a language change and Director Mack wanted to see the red line copy reflect.
I mean, she wanted to see the red line and make sure that the directors got to see the year-over-year changes. Again, they're not really substantive, they're just reacting to
Thorough.
realities on the
I
ground.
think we didn't do it for approval because it wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't
It
going.
wasn't final.
It wasn't going through exactly as we saw it.
Okay, and the red lines start at page 33. It looks like there's a whole passel of them.
Right.
Yep.
But those, again, most of them are formatting, cleaning up language, the way bullet lists were made. There are three really real structural changes that are not changes to the way the guidelines work, just reacting to conditions on the ground.
Director Hansen?
So I understand there are
James?
not a lot of changes this year and that we approve this every year. The equity analysis says basically didn't do it, but what I'm wondering is then when was a racial equity analysis done of this entire document and process, and if
I
meaning,
think,
is that already on the books, and therefore we're saying, it seems, it seems like a pretty high,
we have
equity-
identified some of the base standards as part of our focus goal around transportation in general, that equity, I think the equity analysis would come into kind of the base guidelines about walk zones and kind of the structural underpinnings. We just didn't have the bandwidth to do that this year, but we would like to look at that because transportation is provided pretty evenly across the district, aside from the supplemental services, which may not be the most equitable way to do it. There are different geographies, there are different circumstances in different neighborhoods, and our base standards don't really acknowledge that.
I think if anything, it does highlight one of the things that's really in our board goals, which is not only are we trying to model, participating and utilizing the racial equity tool, but I think it should be across the board, in my opinion, when we should be using it, even if it's just changing one or a few words. I think it's always important practice. Director Harris, I see your hands up, and I know Director Vera Smith takes copious notes when she attends meetings, so I don't know if you had any.
Just as far as the question of why it was for consideration, Director Mack did want to see a red line version of the bar, but also I have in here in the talk about supplemental services, and we discussed that you need the flexibility to make changes quickly. I just have in here that you said you will scrub the supplemental list and make sure it is accurate for introduction.
We did, and
Okay.
adding the shuttles that just were omitted last year, like Lincoln and Garfield
Gotcha.
and a couple
So that's
others,
what
we identified.
consideration was about.
Thank you. Director Harris?
I appreciate what you just said, and I wonder if we can't put that in there by way of explanation. I think that the oral history is helpful to us, but if it's embedded, it gives us direction for the next year, et cetera. I think we need to own that.
So I will take that as a potential revision to the language in the board action report relating to equity analysis that will describe that the transportation department plans on. Again, this document reflects our existing kind of policy and approach given boundary changes, interim site, and implementing those per our current kind of practices. It doesn't represent a rethinking of any of those practices, and that's where equity analysis would be most in order.
Thanks, Chief
Kind of the
Podesta.
underlying assumptions, and we didn't do that this year. We just didn't have the bandwidth.
Director Hampson?
Well, and I would just ask the committee to make sure that you go through that racial equity tool analysis, even if you come to the conclusion that there's not a lot to report. It's
Exactly.
not that onerous as a committee process.
Right.
And any historical information that comes out that's presented here makes us better informed, and it makes the community better informed if they can see, as you said, Director Harris, what's embedded in prior work or future work that pertains to ensuring that our strategic plan is flowing through at this level. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Hampson. Any more comments, questions, concern about this item? Okay, let's move to introduction item number 11, BEX 5, approval of additional funding and delivery acceleration for the student computer refresh to support teaching and learning and equitable access for students district-wide. This came through OPS on February 6th for approval, and I will let Chief Berkey take it away.
Thank you. This bar would approve $12.5 million from planned BEX $5 to complete the student device rollout, which the plan that was approved by the board on June 12, 2019. So this continues that as the second step. The previous approval was for BTA $4. We are now asking for approval for BEX 5 spend. This bar would approve providing laptops to all high school students and providing laptops to each classroom and other grades to replace older student devices on a 4-year cycle. This bar would also approve the acceleration, which is at the request of high schools, of the original phased-in approach for high school students, where now students in grades 9 through 12 are provided laptops by fall 2020. Originally, other than the 6 initial high schools were to receive laptops for their incoming freshmen each school year through year 22-23.
Awesome, thank you. Folks from OPS have any additional comments or anything that's helpful for the board?
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
I'll just share that the discussion that we had was that there were some issues that people were having, like some students at the high school have laptops and other grades not have laptops, and that for equity across all of our buildings and to also help with educators' consistency and what tools are available and all of that, that this made a lot of sense.
And I'll also just add to that, seeing in the classroom when there are grade bands that have access to some technology really reduces the ability for grade learning and activities and projects and things like that. And then for the management purposes of the school, being able to work alongside other grade bands is really important. And then it is just really, really difficult to have like 9th and 10th graders with laptops in a building and 11th and 12th graders not having that.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense. It's much more streamlined in terms of actually being able to support students with technology when all of your students have the same resource at the same time.
Yeah. Also hearing about the excitement from students
Right.
of schools where it had been rolled out, and that's just something that we want for all of our students.
Sure. And Director Vera-Smith?
And just to daylight where did the 12 million come from? So it was coming from the 13.5 that was to go to this SAP replacement that you're not going to be
No.
rolling out because we don't need to right now? I mean, what's?
No, so to provide clarification,
Yeah.
there is the technology plan online, and on page 19, there is a order of activities that we have money set aside for different things. And so it's only for student laptop dollars. We're taking line items from BEX 5 for those items for this purchase.
Do you have clarification? Director Harris?
I swear I feel like the board Grinch sometimes. That technology plan was never passed by the board, was it? As a board resolution?
No.
Okay.
Is
That was-
that memorialized in policy somewhere that we need to approve the technology plan?
Well, when we're spending how much money?
I'm just saying clarification. It sounds like it may not be in policy right now that we approve that plan. If that is something we should bring to our committees.
And I believe that we should probably seek some assistance from our legal office on that piece.
I don't know where it says that in policy off the top of my head.
I
do-
appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'm not throwing rocks here, but I have significant concerns when we have been spending millions and millions of dollars based on a plan. And no offense to anyone, the person that put that plan together is long darn gone. That's a problem for me.
I don't know if it's
And
in
we're not
there.
going to solve it tonight, but if we could get some legal clarification from counsel? Thank you, sir.
I
I'm not
just-
expecting you to.
I have that Director Mack had said that 6901 calls out clarification around technology plan, so there might be something in there that specifies if it should be board approved or not. I don't
And
have
that is
that
coming
policy in front of
through
me, but-
ops in the beginning of
Director
March.
It's being amended to add IT.
I think you're right, exactly. I think that
Sorry,
there's,
It's not, it wasn't-
we're not there yet, right? I think
That's
we,
right.
we are looking at that policy. I know it's coming through ops in March. Yes. Thank you, Chief Berge. All right, item number 12, recommendation to extend contract terms and amend contract amounts for furniture procurement for 2020-2021, bid number B05866. This came through Ops Committee, February 6th for consideration. Chief Podesta?
Thank you. In March of 2018, the district bid out furniture procurement contracts, mostly associated with capital projects to provide furnishings as school additions, remodels, or new schools are built. The bid anticipate, and 2 contracts were awarded that exceeded the bar limit. The RFP process was structured in such a way that the contract would have a termination date for the first year and then be extended a second year, and that's this extension. So the last year was the spending was about double just because of the number of square feet we were adding in last year's capital program with a 20 classroom addition at Ingram, Lincoln High School, and opening Magnolia. This year, a little bit less furniture is needed, so the amounts are a bit smaller, and then I think that'll be the end of these 2 of these contracts. But this just allows us to procure all the furniture we're going to need for the schools that we open.
Thank you. And do folks from the committee or other folks who attended can give us any more clarity around why it was for consideration?
Yeah, with revisions, move for consideration with revisions, so I don't even, but I don't have what those revisions are supposed to be necessarily, so, we have like 4 sentences on this one. You know?
As we know, Director Mack is very attentive to detail and wants to make sure that the process is followed in the way that she believes it should be followed.
I
So,
think also that it's a big dollar amount, so they just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that the board looked at it.
yep.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns about furniture procurement?
Yes.
Okay, and just for clarification, I did find in policy 1010 that board committees have oversight over reviewing general technology plans, but we currently have a gap, and hopefully that will be addressed in 6901 again. Director
I
Max,
think,
very engaged in that.
Not to go backward again. Spending many months looking at 6901, I think we decided since it's really about facility planning, that it wasn't really helpful for technology. And I don't want to speak for Director Mack, but I think she might propose to her colleagues that we need just the just capital planning and nothing that specifies technology, that maybe there should just be a companion policy.
Yep.
Like the master facility planning policy. So, but given we spent so much time looking at it, I don't think there is a policy now that requires approval of a technology plan.
Well, we're a working board. It's on our site. Okay, Director Hampson, I saw you over there with your hand on the microphone. Do you want to? Okay, so let's go to introduction item number 13, first amendment to facilities capital projects warehouse agreement at Ellis Street Warehouse. This came through Operations Committee February 6th for approval. Chief Podesta, back to you.
We lease a warehouse mostly to store the furniture that I was just describing in the last bar. That we are very time dependent in our capital program, that these projects need to be ready when they need to be ready. School opens on a particular day, and we need to have all the furniture on hand on a specific date. And given the lead time of all the furniture and equipment and technology and sometimes books and curriculum that are required to add floor space to our schools, we need to stock up as the capital program progresses and have it ready for delivery. We can't rely on all our vendors to deliver everything we need to all our projects on just the right date. So we have a warehouse, and we've occupied it for several years, and we've negotiated an extension, a 7-year extension.
Do directors have comments, questions, or concerns? Anything they want to elevate? Anybody from ops? Okay, thank you, Chief Podesta. Next item is number 14, BEX 5, new in lieu replacement option for Rainier Beach High School replacement project. This came through Operations Committee on February 6th for approval. Chief Podesta.
This is part of the state's deform process where we assert to the state various milestones on capital projects. And for Rainier Beach, there is a requirement for this form to make a determination: are we going to replace a building outright or modify it? And given the needs for new program that we've identified for Beach, this is just us informing OSPI that we intend to demolish most of the building, not the Performing Arts Center, and build a new structure to support the program we'd like to see going forward.
Director Harris.
Did I see someplace in the city council's agenda or a city agenda, the folks are talking about landmarking Rainier Beach High School?
I have not seen any city council action to that effect. There may be a nomination hearing identified at some point, because we always go to Landmarks Board because we have to control our own destiny and call the question. So the Landmarks Preservation Board may be calendaring a hearing that we would ask for, because we can't have it come out of left field.
And if it gets landmark status, it adds 30% to the cost, is that correct?
You know,
Is that a benchmark?
That's a decent benchmark if the whole envelope needs to be, the whole building exterior needs to be preserved. It depends on what the controls are and what specifically gets landmarked. We are communicating with the Landmarks Preservation Board about really, cost aside, what the potential limitations are to educational programs if we don't build the buildings that meet our educational specs.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. It sounds like it is definitely a hot potato. I mean, it would add certainly something that we didn't plan for, which is concerning.
I guess the irony that we made them wait that long, and they've been in a substandard school for decades more than other high schools, and now we make them wait longer, is beyond sad to me.
Director Rankin, on the.
I was just going to reinforce that and say that, the community is asking for a new building, and that has been the conversation. And also seeing the proposals for Northgate, things have changed a lot, and it's really exciting, the newer building. I love historical preservation in some contexts, a great deal, actually. But for our students and for this school and these students, what we can do and what we could build is really exciting.
Thank you, Director Rankin. Any more comments or questions, concerns about the new in lieu replacement option for Rainier Beach High School? Okay, moving on to introduction item number 15, BEX 5 award contract P1672 for construction project management services to Shields, Oblitz, Johnson, Inc., SOJ, for the Van Asselt Classroom Addition and Mercer Middle School Replacement Project. This came through Operations Committee on February 6th for approval. Chief Podesta, back to you.
As you know, we are expanding the footprint at Van Asselt School, and we'll also be using it as a temporary site as other construction projects go on. And it's a complicated enough affair that we are hiring a construction management firm to oversee the construction, and this is would allow us to award that contract and get started.
Do directors that attended the operations committee have any additional comments or questions or concerns or anything that came through the committee that we should know? Any other directors? Okay, let's move on to item number 16. Beck, and it's not the last.
Too excited there.
And we're good. We get one. We get one. BTA 4, final acceptance of contract K5101 with King County Directors Association, KCDA, and Musco Sports Lighting, LLC for the athletic field lights at Roosevelt High School project. This came through Operations Committee February 6th for approval. Chief Podesta.
Again, directors are familiar with the final acceptance project process where we close out contracts. This work has been completed, and the lights have been commissioned and are working to our satisfaction, and the contractor completed the work to our satisfaction, so this just closes the work out.
Thank you.
These
That's
are
a
always
success.
These are always celebratory.
And our final item of the evening is item number 17. Well, sort of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Director Hampson, on the last item.
Sorry, I just need to go back for 1 second. At some point, do we review leases as a whole that we hold? And is there any lease versus buy consideration?
It sounds like you're on
The fiscal
13.
analysis. Yeah,
Is
I
this
went
the
back
Ellis
to
Ware
13.
House? Okay.
And you can answer me later. I'm just wondering. Well, yeah, just based on current market conditions and rates and stuff. If there's any tickler for that, so to speak.
Yeah, I think our master facility planning would be a good space, and our long-range levy planning to see how much we need of this kind of facility. If it's going to be in perpetuity, we'd like to own it. We've also been looking for possible related real estate for a bus lot. So we are definitely thinking about it and thought about that on the term of this lease extension. So
Okay,
yes,
so that's,
yeah, definitely on our radar.
if that analysis is done and it could be included with the bar, I think that would be really helpful
It
analysis.
is not done. I think we're
Okay.
planning on folding it into our facility master planning work
Okay.
that we're kicking off with our new advisory committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Podesta. And again, Director Mack not only will be mad if I don't mention the advisory committee, but also 6900 and 6901 are coming through her committee. I know she's very excited about that. That's capital planning and levy planning and a lot.
And we made our selection on the advisory committee.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna, it's 6 minutes to 9 p.m. I'm gonna kick it over to Chief Codd for the Seattle Teacher Residency Program contract, which came through A&F on February 10th for approval.
Okay, yes, thank you. So this contract would be in the amount of $301,361. It would go to the Alliance for Education for the purposes of the Seattle Teacher Residency Program. We have a mixture of funds, baseline, and then previously in September, you all already approved the teacher diversity contract money from the City of Seattle. So we are combining some baseline funds with some of those grant funds for this purpose. I have written a lot of background information for you because the program is very exciting. But if you have any questions, I will answer them now.
Thank you.
And/or want a tour.
Do directors have comments, questions, concerns, anything they'd like to elevate to Chief Codd around the Seattle Teacher Residency item?
Thank you all.
Seeing none, that's no more items before us. And with that, I will adjourn our meeting at 8:55 p.m. Thank you for being here.